this issue. We are starting little late. So again, thank you for joining and thank you for your patience. And on behalf of ERVR management, I would like to welcome you, in today's webinar. And this is the fourth one in the series. And as you all know that this is on ESG and sustainability. So we would like to make it an interactive session like we always do. Ask lots of questions. You can put the questions on chat also, and you can unmute yourself at the logical break and then ask a question. So let me introduce our honored speaker to you, Mr. Falgun Shah. Falgun Shah is, let me read, no, your bio, it's huge. So he's an accomplished professional with an academic background, holding a master's degree in technology from IIT Madras, MBA with specialization in finance from Ahmedabad. He has continuously enhanced the skill knowledge through various professional courses and executive development programs, and he has obtained lots of certification, including quality management, lead auditor, ISO 9000, Six Sigma, Green Belt, independent director, ESG expert, and digital director certificate. He commenced his career as a scientist with the BARC and has impressive 38 years of corporate experience in diverse sectors, including light engineering, office automation products, thermal engineering, switchgears, plastic durables, home appliances. And throughout his career, he has excelled in research, product innovation, development, manufacturing and engineering, quality assurance, ENP, ERP implementation, supply chain, ESG practices, corporate governance, and international business operations. He has demonstrated exceptional capability by successfully establishing two greenfield projects, overseeing their growth from inception to fully operational businesses. Additionally, he has played a pivotal role in turning around struggling enterprises through strategic restructuring, DPR, digital initiatives, and cost optimization and product enhancement. The global perspective is further enhanced because he has traveled lots of countries. So with the help of various culture, language, and ethnicity, he has honed his ability to navigate into complex international environments. Recently, he has concluded his tenure as CEO International Subsidiaries Group of Symphony Limited and have transitioned into business consulting role. In addition to consultancy work, he also serves as a director and mentor on board of a couple of private companies, startup within India as nominee director on board of two companies in Australia. And he loves to mentor, coach, train, and speak at various places where he shares ideas and knowledge on subjects like leadership, productivity, business excellence, sustainability, ESG, digitization, strategy, profitability. Sir, it's good to have you on this forum. Yeah, so please, everyone, join me welcoming Mr. Falgun Shah. Sir, thank you for accepting the invite, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. And a lot of thanks, especially for the big introduction. I'm sure I'm having equally allied participants over here. So very glad to be here. First of all, thanks to Dr. Rupali and to Manoj for this opportunity, and welcome to all the participants. As Dr. Rupali said, let's make it interactive. ESG sustainability is a very, very broad subject. To do a proper justice, it would require several hours, but we'll endeavor to, go through the basics, and subsequently probably we can, have more chat on that. So let me share my screen. Rupali, it seems you will have to enable me to share. Hello.
Manoj, you are the host. Please make sir host. Make sir co-host.
You can share.
I can? Okay, I'll try again. Yeah, I'm able to. So I hope my screen is visible now to all.
Yes, sir. I can see.
Great, great. So, so I start with a sentence which says, key to understanding future is one word, sustainability. I mean, if there is sustainability, there is future. If there is no sustainability, there is no future. I think this is the best way to understand sustainability. Going by the definition, so sustainability is ability to sustain at a certain level. Just to give an example, supposing we have a particular lifestyle that we eat so much, we use so much of car and house and this and that. So if we are able to sustain at the similar rate for rest of our life, then it is sustainable. If our level goes down, it means the whole thing is not sustainable. Either we are expanding too much or our source of income is not adequate. Sustainability is basically exactly the same, the balance between the resources and the usage and how exactly we achieve so that we can sustain it for infinity. So in other words, sustainability is like treating ourselves as if we are going to use this environment for lifetime until forever, for infinity, right? So sustainability has three pillars, E, S, and G. So it's an environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and governance sustainability. So ESG is a buzzword which has come and very, very popular these days, and a lot of things are happening under ESG. But basically, ESG are only three different pillars of how sustainability is achieved in a corporate world. Let's go further. So there are going by the history, so sustainability or ESG is not something which has come just now. You know, Starting with the industrial revolution, which happened in the early 90s, not even 20s, early 90s. So as early as in 1919, ILO, International Labour Organization, came into picture, and since then there are various things which have happened on global front. As early as 1972, the words environment problem was identified. So the problem that environment is not forever if we continue using like this was identified way back in 1972, right? So it's a very old thing. And subsequently, OECD was formed, and I have put the details over here. I'll not go through each detail. I just explain the milestones because the details can be obtained on any internet site. But to just to understand, the thing has been happening since years, and if you see in 1981, the World Conservation Strategy was developed, and then COP came into picture, and even now the COP is happening. If you are following the news, COP 27 happened last year, and COP 28 is expected this year in the Middle East. Then there were certain protocols. Every year in COP, there is some or other protocol, but there are certain protocols which are really significant in terms of history of environment and ESG and sustainability. So Montreal was one such thing which happened in 1987, wherein the first time 100 plus ozone depleting substances were identified, and it was identified that these are the substances that will sort of reduce in a phased manner. And then Sustainable Development word was coined in 1987. Intercontinental Panel for Climate Action, IPCC, was established in 1988. IPCC is something which is responsible for COP, and even the G20 has come at its best. Rio Protocol is another important protocol which came up with the how with three different things. One is climate change, how to have different points on the combating climate change, how to address the biological diversity, and how to address the desertification. So these were the three important things which came up in Rio Protocol. Then came Kyoto Protocol, which was in 1997, and this was to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases. So this greenhouse gases GHG is something that we will be focusing on in the subsequent slides, because uh, that is a there is another buzzword that everyone should know in terms of ESG and sustainability. And of course, G20 was then established in 1999, and all of us know that G20, because this year India has been a host country. then UNGC guiding principles. So there are 10 guiding principles which on business and human rights. And in fact, these are the guiding principles based upon which all subsequent social and environmental framework have been developed. So these were the fundamental things in 2000. Then in 2005, UN principles of responsible investment came. So until 2005, this whole emphasis was upon how the corporates, individuals, and governments can drive the sustainability of the climate change control. And in 2005, the concept of investing into sustainable companies and sustainable projects came into picture. And then the most historical thing, which everyone must know, is the Paris Agreement, which came in 2015. 2015 Paris Agreement is extremely important for all of us because that is something we'll be living for rest of our life. So it has three things. One is substantially reduce greenhouse gases (GHG) emissions to limit the global temperature increase in the century by end of the century to 2 degrees, but preferably up to 1.5 degrees. And I think you must be all hearing these numbers often. So this was one important point which was there in the Paris Agreement. Second important was to make the participant countries to give something called as NDC, nationally determined commitments. So India has its own nationally determined commitments, and I'll come to that. So every country has its own commitment by which year what they will do. So this is the most important agreement. In this agreement, also the 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, were undertaken, and this is something that also will be for rest of our life and rest of the century will be bothering about 17 SDGs, and I slide for that. Subsequently, in 2020, EU taxonomy for sustainable activities has come into force. So when you say taxonomy, it's basically a kind of dictionary which really defines exactly the parameters and the sentences and the concepts. And as late as in 2023, European Commission has adopted sustainability reporting standards. So until now, there were different standards, but at least in Europe now, there is a common standard starting this year, July. This is what has happened globally. Let us understand which are the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. So there are 17 of them. Just to name few of them, if you see first one, it's a no poverty, right? Second one is zero hunger. These are all theoretical, but these are the goals which are there set up in the Paris Agreement, and all the frameworks for ESG sustainability, for reporting, everything has a base in these 17 SDGs. So hence these 17 SDGs are very important. Whenever we are doing any activity in any corporate, it will be linked to one or two or more of these 17 activities, these 17 initiatives. So second is zero hunger, third is good health and well-being, fourth is quality education. So there are 17 of them. If you see, the 16 is peace, justice, and strong institution, and 17 is partnership for the goals. Uh, so this is based upon the three pillars. Earlier the businesses were responsible only for generating profits, but in the late 70s and onwards, the profit, planet, and people. These were the three things which came out. Planet is nothing but environment, people is nothing but social, and profit has something to do with how governance is playing the role. This is the brief history of what happened globally on the ESG and sustainability front. Let us see what happened in India, because a lot of things have happened in India, and specifically in the last about 10 years. So if you look at this chart, which is going from left top to right to then bottom left. So 2009 was the first big milestone wherein MCA came out with voluntary CSR. So this CSR thing came out for the first time in 2009, and that was voluntary at that time. If you see 2011, it came out with National Voluntary Guidelines. This NVG later on became National Guidelines for Responsible Business Conduct, which we are following now, as of now. In 2012, the top 100 companies, SEBI mandated that you must have BRR, Business Responsibility Report, as a part of your annual report in terms of declaration. And in 2000, of course, 2013, everyone knows that the New Companies Act came. In 2014, the CSR was then mandated. So up to 2014, the CSR guidelines were there but it was not mandated. 2014, it was mandated. 2015, BRR was, extended from 100 companies to 500 companies. In 2015, there was so until 2014, there was no format. In 2015, SEBI also gave a format in which you have to show your responsibility report. And 2017, the integrated reporting came into picture. So what is integrated reporting? If you are seeing most of the annual reports, except for the top 500 companies, if you see annual reports, that is basically starts with a director report, how the company performs, maybe CFO report, and then there is a whole lot of thing about the financial report. I mean, 80% of the pages are of financial report, P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, and the details thereof. And the companies used to have a sustainability report as a second separate report. So what happens in that, how you maintain sustainability in terms of ESG becomes a separate topic, and how you do your finances become a separate topic. So from this year, 2017, SEBI said that no, you have to integrate these two so that whatever you are doing for sustainability is in sync with what you are doing with the profitability, right? So that is how integrated report came into picture. And if you see if you pick up any of the top 500 companies and pick up the annual report, you will see the report first starts with showing how they work on the sustainability front, on E front, S front, G front, and then only they come to the financials. So this is what has happened. And 2018 NGBRC has come into picture, and there are 9 guiding principles of NGBRC. Based upon these 9 guiding principles, the companies make their report, which is retermed as BRSR, and I'll come to that. So in 2021, this BRSR, which is Board Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting. So BRR has become BRSR, and the BRSR has been mandated for top 1,000 companies from FY22 23, and you will see that in annual report of all these companies. And draft green credit program. So if you see the last 4 points, no, you'll be surprised. These 4 points are exactly in the year 2023. The logic or the understanding from this is that there is a very rampant activity in terms of ESG in sustainability these days. And it's like raining. New things are raining almost every month or every second month, because we are really now concerned about the things which are not happening as per target, and how do we exactly get into the target. So last 4 things are exactly done in the year 2023. So there is the first one is about the green credit program. The second thing is about carbon trading program, and all of you would have known about carbon trading. Per ton of CO2, there is a carbon credit which is being, but it's not still mandated, but there is a program which is there in place. And then master circular for ESG rating providers, because so far the circular was only for the corporates how to report, but now the SEBI has come out with the format of the companies who are making rating for the corporates, right? And then the final BRSR core for top 150 companies. So BRSR core is nothing but the corporate reporting not only for itself, but also reporting for its entire supply chain, which is a very, very deep thing, right? So with this, I think we finished the first part of the discussion, which is the history part. So I will now start into the detailed understanding of E, S, and G, and then subsequently we go to the reporting part. At this stage, if there is any question, I'm happy to take. Otherwise, I'll proceed further. So since I'm not able to see the chat room, Rupali, please intervene me if there is any question from anywhere.
There's so far no question,
Okay,
but
fine.
I have one.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. this is no SDG and CSR initiatives by which organizations take. So, what all CSR initiative they take is should be under SDG goals only, or they can go for separate CSR activities, or it's a mandate. नहीं 617 से ही you have to take.
Yes, so very good question. So earlier when the CSR was mandated, it was not linked with SDGs, but now it is linked with SDGs. So now there are two things in this. One is when the CSR was initially mandated, it was like a company or corporate donates that fund to the institutes, to NGOs, or to the trust, or to directly to the communities. And then came subsequent rule that you just don't have to donate, you to ensure that that has been used for whatever purpose it was given, whether it was for education of the children, whether it was for communities, whether it was for health. So it was to be demonstrated that the funds are not just transferred to some NGO trust, but they are used. And then now the next regulation has come, which is that you to show the impact of these funds. It's not only that I have given funds for some healthcare, but what that fund has impacted in terms of actual, implementation and actual healthcare. That impact analysis has to be assessed and shown.
Okay,
So and everything is in line with 17 SDGs.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So going further, see, what are various things in environment? When you see environment, one is related to climate change, another is related to the water security. Next is circular economy. Uh, then there is a biodiversity. Sorry, let me just show the points here. So there is this climate change, water security, circular economy, biodiversity, pollution prevention and control, green business, and value chain engagement. Let's try to understand these points one by one. So when you say climate change, now greenhouse gases that we emit into the climate, there are many of that. Fundamentally, there are six of them, but there are variants of these six. So carbohydrates and methane and carbon dioxide and other varieties of C and H chains. All of this, what happens is, in order to simplify the reporting and in order to understand the number, everything is put into equivalent of carbon dioxide. So no matter what kind of emission I am doing, what kind of greenhouse gas I am emitting, there is an equivalent of carbon dioxide. So all the measurements in this under ESG jargon is in terms of CO2. How many tons of CO2 equivalent we are sort of emitting as a. So one is a carbon footprinting. Carbon footprinting is of the organization. And second thing is carbon neutrality. So how do we obtain carbon neutrality? When you talk about carbon footprinting, and now here comes the real important parameters, because every corporate has is supposed to do this. So carbon footprinting, also known as GHG inventory, greenhouse gas inventory. Basically, there are three variants in this: scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So what is scope 1? Scope 1 is something that we directly emit in our operations as gases. For example, I have a DG set and there is a combustion happening and something.
2 to 5:30 per ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಒಂದು ನೆಲ ಎಫ್ಎಸ್ ಕೊಡಿದಂತ
Can everyone go on mute, please?
2 to 5:30 ಅವಳು
Manoj,
6 ಲೇಟರ್ 3 ಮಣಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಫೋಟೋ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ.
Okay, so sorry for that. So I'll just explain the scope 1, 2, and 3 here, which is very important, and the history and other things were good for knowing, but these are the parameters which are really very important when we are actually implementing in any. So scope 1 is something that we directly emit. So we have processes wherein we do some fuel combustion, or we have some processes, for example, air conditioner where there is some leakage of gas, or the fire hydrants where there is some leakage of gas over a period of time. So any such direct emission of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere is a part of scope 1, right? And scope 1 is fundamentally into the place that you own. What is scope 2? Scope 2 is indirect emissions. What happens is that, for example, 98%, 99% of the corporates don't produce their own electricity, right? We take electricity from the grid. Uh,
So 1 minute. Manoj, are you there?
Yes. What happened?
Manoj, can you unmute, sir?
Oh, Falgun sir.
I can't hear if any others are hearing, sir.
is it okay now?
No.
Yes, it is
Now
fine.
it's okay.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I don't know how long it went. So let me explain this scope 1, 2, 3 again. Uh, so basically, so every company has got something which they do themselves in their own office, in their own factory, in their own premises, in their own warehouses. And they have something which is not directly done by them. They purchase something in terms of products or services or whatever it is, which is called as a value chain. Whatever is happening in their own premises, there are two types of GHG emissions. The first type is that scope 1, which means whatever processes I am doing in my own factory or my own office, in terms of, for example, I'm using diesel generating set. So the diesel which is getting used and combusted, the fumes which go into the atmosphere is carrying CO2. So similarly, any other GHG emission I do, whether through my vehicles or through DG set or through boiler or through fire hydrant system, fire extinguishers or through air conditioners. So whatever gases are emitted directly by my operations are getting into scope 1. What is scope 2? Scope 2 is something that you use, but you don't produce that in-house. For example, every corporate uses electricity, but they don't produce electricity. Electricity is bought from the grid. While producing the electricity and distributing the electricity, there is a lot of greenhouse gas emission already happening in power plants and distribution, which is the part of that is allocated to the corporate to the extent the units are used. And similarly, like use of air, use of steam, use of any other utility from outside is scope 2. And scope 3 is a vast scope. A lot of things happen in scope 3. Fundamentally, scope 3 is all business travels, all employee commuting, any other wastage that we generate and dispose, all supply chain. So for example, I purchase a pump or a motor or a raw material. So the factory, the supply factory, his or her, footprint comes my scope 3, right? So this is how, and when you talk about BRSR core, which is mandated for top 150 companies as of now, and which will progressively go to more companies. And
Sir, not able to.
hello,
Not able to hear you, sir.
I can hear, sir. What about others? Can you hear, sir?
Can hear, yes.
I am also getting him.
Hello, Rupali.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Hello.
We can also hear him.
Manoji, please check your setting. Okay, so these were the scope 1, 2, and 3. I'll come back to the earlier slide in which I had shown that there is next thing is carbon neutrality. So carbon neutrality comes by different methods. One is I reduce my carbon, I reduce my consumption. So that way I can reach, go to carbon neutrality. Second is I do something which by which I capture the carbon. So I continue doing my activity no matter, but I also have something to capture the carbon that I emit. So there is another method. And third method is probably I can't do any of those. Okay, I will lease some plots and some lands and plant some trees and do something which can offset the carbon that I'm producing. So this is how I can achieve carbon neutrality. Second is the water scarcity, and of course water is becoming a big topic as everyone knows. So water consumption, and now as per Central Pollution Control Board, it is mandatory to give the amount of water used, whether it is supplied water or the groundwater, and also mandatory to report how much water, wastewater we are putting back into the land. So water cycling, water reuse, and rainwater harvesting has become very common sort of thing to in order to comply with the water quantity requirements. So water as well as carbon dioxide are usually reported in terms of how many tons per rupee of turnover or how many liters of water per rupee of turnover of the company. So these are the normal metrics which are used. Third important thing mentioned here is circular economy. And I have a slide for that and I'll come to that because it's one of the very important things, circular economy and EPR norms. And then of course, biodiversity and other things, right? So let's straight away go to circular economy. So in circular economy, we talk about 6R. And all these words are coined. So maybe after a few months you will hear 7R or 8R or doesn't matter. But what are these? So first one is you reduce. So first thing that you do is you try to reduce the resources that you are using. If you are using 1 kilo of raw material for producing the particular product, try to reduce it to 900 grams. Try to reduce it to 850 grams. So that is the first thing to reduce the consumption of the resources of electricity, of water, of raw materials. Second thing is repair. So instead of item which is not working, get it repaired and continue using it, right? So this is second stage of a circular economy. Third is refurbish. So something you can't repair, okay, change the spare part, but still continue using it. So that is refurbishing. Fourth is reusing. So supposing I'm fed up with this, I'm fed up with my car or my this thing. I instead of scraping it, someone else starts using it. So it's a reuse. Someone else continues using. Correct. So fifth is recycle. It means it's no more usable, goes back to factory or goes back to a place where it can be recycled into different parts, and these parts can be then reused for consumption. And the last thing is reprocessed. So even the parts cannot be used again. It has come to that extent that each individual material, whether it is plastic, copper, aluminum, steel, whatever it is, goes back to its original form by the recyclers, by registered recyclers, and reused, right? So the aim of 6R in the circular economy is that nothing gets wasted. The resources keep on getting, the products keep on getting reused to the extent possible. Once once you are exhausted using that, you keep using the raw material to the extent possible. So you minimize the use of the fresh resources. This is what is the circular economy. So you keep on circling the resources. This also applies to water. And this also applies to electricity. And that is why the renewable source of electricity has come into picture. Okay. Another important thing to know is EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. So for example, these days, plastic, right? So whenever we procure a product, uh, the product comes in a packaging. So if there is a corrugated box or a paper or this kind of packaging, I can always, take it out and give it to the pastiwala, and that pastiwala will then, be able to use it for recycling the paper, making the pulp. But if it's a plastic item, Pastiwala will not be able to do anything, right? So it needs to be recycled by a separate chain. This extended producer responsibility says that the person, the company which is producing or selling as a brand, even on internet or through e-commerce or directly, if the company is involved in manufacturing or selling, then company has responsibility of recycling or reprocessing the packaging. So this is the first thing. Then it goes beyond that. What happens now? Packaging is out, and the product, people start using product. But after 8 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, when the product life is over and the product is no more usable even after repair and all, so even the recycling of that product is a responsibility of the principal producer or the principal brand owner. So that is the next stage of EPR. For example, air conditioner, if the air conditioner life is 10 years, for example, split air conditioner, the producer of the air conditioner has a responsibility that at the end of 10 years, it has to collect all the air conditioners that it is sold and ensure that it is recycled through registered recyclers. Now, currently, there is some leeway given by government that supposing I'm an air conditioner supplier in 2013, I had set 10,000 air conditioners sold in the market. So in 2023, I have to collect 10,000 air conditioners and ensure that they are recycled into the raw materials. What government has given leeway is that you don't need to bother that you are collecting your own. You can collect any brand as long as you are collecting 10,000. So this is a leeway. But going forth, this is going to change. So this is the whole APR, which is very important. So GHG inventory, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, circular economy, and EPR. These are the three most important concepts to know about in terms of environment. So when talking about the Paris Agreement, I mentioned that there are some nationally determined commitments which every nation has committed. What was India's commitment? So I have written here, I mentioned here. So India's commitment one is reaching a known fossil fuel energy capacity of 500 gigawatt by 2030. So by 2030, India has committed that 50%, 500 gigawatt of its energy will come from renewables, from known fossil fuel. Second is fulfilling 50% of energy requirements via renewable by 2030. These two things by 2030. Third thing by 2030 is reducing carbon dioxide emissions by 1 million tons. How government is going to do? It will mandate corporates, every corporate to reduce and finally reduce this 1 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Fourth thing is carbon intensity below 45%. When you say 45%, the base is 2015, Paris Agreement base, right? So compared to 2015, by 2030, reduce by 45%. And then achieve net zero by 2070, which is very, very ambitious goal for all of us as corporates, because this means more and more stringent things about what we have seen currently in terms of BRSR, in terms of EPR, in terms of circular economy, is just tip of the iceberg. Lot of things are below water. They are going to come, and the corporates have to be prepared for that. Corporates and the governments, local governments, everyone has to be prepared for that. Otherwise, we cannot achieve this 2070 net zero goal. So that is how the ESG is gaining so much of importance these days. Okay. So let's go to second pillar, because we already sort of run out of major time. So let's quickly also look at the social pillar and the governance pillar. So in social pillar, basically, you have to work with all the stakeholders. So who are your stakeholders? Shareholders are your stakeholders. Who are the investors? Government is a stakeholder. Competition is a stakeholder because there is something to do with the competition. Your customers are your major stakeholders. Your employees are your major stakeholders. Community around you is your major stakeholders. And your suppliers, supply chain is a stakeholder. So you to do something for all the stakeholders as a part of social pillar, right? So stewardship says that you are doing business, you are doing business, you are earning profit, but in doing the business, you are using the land, you are using air, you are using water. These are shared resources. These are not your own resources. You're not built for that. For example, at the house, most of the people are not built for the water they are consuming, but it's the consumption. It's a shared resource, right? So what corporate social pillar says that since you are using all these things, you are also responsible for well-being of the society in general, whether it is employees or customers or civil society communities, and then you are answerable to government and regulatory bodies. CSR, Rupali, you had asked about this. So the basic thing is that whichever is the company with a net worth of 500 crore or more, turnover of 1,000 crore or more, or a profit of 5 crore or more in the immediate preceding financial year, for the average of the 3 years, 2% of the net profit has to be spent on CSR. So that is the norm. All these are the points related to social pillar. So people and workforce, it's very straightforward. Health and safety of the people who are employees, diversity and inclusion, that enough of gender diversity, enough of caste diversity, enough of people represented from vulnerable communities. So all kinds of diversities in this. Security of the people, social protection of the people, medical provision for the employees, to have norms for persons with disability so that they can also equally perform in your organization, equity and equality, training and career progression for everyone, work environment, team building activities, family welfare. So all these things are related to employees. What about government? So government mandates that anti-bribery, you have a regulation, you have anti-corruption regulation, and that is being followed. That's a part of mind you, this is a part of governance as well as social pillar. So there are few things which sort of transcends the boundary between the social and governance. In terms of consumer, and this is the foremost and fundamental thing, product labeling. How clearly you are labeling and informing to the transparently you are informing to the consumer about all the things which comes in the product. Accessibility of the product, affordability of the product is also the part of your responsibility. Channels of distribution, influence of promotion, product safety, one of the very important thing. Safety while procuring, use, storage, as well as disposing. So it has to be safe for all these things. So that safety becomes a responsibility of the company. Of course, quality and service is a responsibility of the company, and data privacy, because nowadays most of the things are happening online. So data privacy is an important responsibility, social responsibility of the company for customers, as far as customer is concerned. For competitors, fair trade practice. So you can't have something which undercut the competitor. Of course, corporates do that, but it has to be done within boundaries. The set rules, fair competition, fair play, supply chain, right? So this way, there are different things for social pillar. Coming to governance, and when the ESG was not in picture, governance was always in picture. Even with as soon as the corporates, as soon as the companies started, as soon as the Companies Act was formed, governance was always in picture. So G pillar was always there. E and S pillar have come subsequently. So G pillar everyone knows, and everyone who have dabbled with independent directors certificate and Companies Act, they know G pillar. I don't need to go through. So these are the points like corporate governance, corporate behavior, business ethics, anti-bribery, anti-corruption policies, anti-competition behavior, tax transparency, financial transparency, cyber security, privacy policies, board management practices, structure of the board, shareholding, succession planning, all these things, right? So, so with that, I finished the second part. The third, the summary part, which is just to show you that when you say all these things have to be reported, so how to report that? Is there any standard? Is there a framework? Yes. So there are various frameworks. So there are various frameworks. One is GRI, Global Reporting Initiative. There is one SASB. There is one integrated reporting. So that way, TCFD. That way, there are many reporting frameworks, and that's the most challenging part. That this is there are many of them. Of course, the integration is happening, and in the coming years, we'll see just one or two framework which will be used worldwide. But currently, these are there. BRSR in India is the most popular and used framework. Then there are some voluntary disclosure like carbon disclosure protocol. So there are voluntary disclosure things, and then there are some research firms who keep on providing the rating to the company like Bloomberg, MSCI, Sustainalytics, CRISIL also in India, and things like that. So these are the categories. Rating and ranking. So if you see, for example, in public forum, there is a ESG rating of the company that is for top 1,000 companies. And these days, even for all listed companies, you will find ESG ranking scores are given. So even if the company don't take initiative, the ranking companies go ahead, look at the voluntary disclosure, look at the company governance, and make the rating themselves. So there are three types. One is the raters and anchors, in which MSCI, Sustainalytics, GRESB, CDP, Bloomberg, TSGS are the main players. Then there are proxy advisors, and then there are credit raters. So credit raters are basically for borrowing on ESG front. Now, how does a company report? So there are steps which company has to follow in reporting. First is fundamentally, every corporate has vision and mission. So this vision and mission have to be realigned in terms of sustainability. The goals have to, the vision, the mission, the goals have to build in the sustainability aspect. That's the first thing to do. And then second thing to do is the corporate has to form a task force to manage ESG because it's not a one person thing. And then the KRA have to be formed in terms of ES and G. Materiality aspects have to be defined because not everything is material to everyone. For example, in a mining company, land acquisition is a major thing, and the and rehabilitation of the community is a very important thing. But for a IT company, rehabilitation is not important because it's not consuming that kind of land. So not everything is material to every company. So company has to identify what are the most material aspects in terms of ESG. So that's the next step. And once that is done, then for those material aspects, what are the baseline data currently? What should be the goal? And then it has to start monitoring. So these are the various steps of reporting. What are the typical sustainability issues? So in terms of ES and G, GHG emission is important, air quality, energy management, water and wastewater, right? So for example, in social human rights, access and affordability. So these are the different, what happens is that these are sustainability issues which are broad terms. Corporate has to look at which 5, 7, or 10 out of these are most important and relevant for the business. How it is done? So the most popular is 2 by 2 matrix, in which this axis is any particular aspect, whether it is water scarcity, how it impacts business, whether it is a major impact, minor impact, small impact, and how it impacts company's shareholder. So in 2 by 2 matrix, all the parameters are put. Whichever parameters are falling in this quarter is the most important material aspects which company has to focus on. Whatever becomes here is not important to the business, but stakeholders, it is important. So you to manage, company has to manage reputation because stakeholders are concerned for that. Whatever aspects are here, company has to invest money in, in sort of doing that. And the one in this quadrant are not that important. You can just mention and acknowledge that these are also the aspects. So these are how the material aspects are framed. Finally, BRSR. this is what we do in India. It is for top 1,000 companies. So there are 9 principles, as I said, 9 NGBRCs. First one is talking about ethics, transparency, and accountability. Second principle talks about product safety and Sustainability. Third thing talks about employees' well-being. Fourth talks about stakeholder engagement. Fifth talks about the human rights, which is for communities now. Sixth talks about the environment, how you handle the environment in terms of pollution, usage of electricity, usage of water. Uh, Seventh is policy advocacy, how you sort of, influence government and departments in terms of making policies related to your business. Eight is inclusive growth. Inclusive growth is you are growing, but are the communities or the society also sort of growing along with you? And the last but the most important is customer value. How customer is attaining value through your business. So these are the 9 principles. BRSR has 3 sections. First section is general disclosure, what the company is, how many plants it is, how many subsidiary it is, disclosures. Second is managerial disclosures. And the third is disclosure related to principles one by one. So section 3 has 9 different things. And in 9 different things, there are 2 levels of disclosure. One is called as essential disclosure, and second is called as a leadership disclosure. Essential disclosure are the questions which must be answered by the corporates. And leadership disclosures are not mandatory, but if you are a good company, reputed company, you will like to do it. So that is about BRSR. And as I said, from July, a lot of things have come into force for carbon trading. So there is something called as carbon pricing. Why carbon pricing is come into picture? Because if you are not able to completely eliminate your carbon emission, you try to offset it. If you are not able to offset it, you try to trade. Someone is very good at carbon controlling, you are trying to trade. So it's a kind of penalty that you pay for not able to get to carbon neutrality. And there are several norms for doing that. So with this, I complete, and before I come to the pledge, if there are any questions at this stage.
There,
Yeah.
there are no questions, but we'll wait for some time. Maybe
Yeah.
someone wants to ask anything. So please feel free to ask questions. You can unmute yourself and directly have a word with sir.
Thank you, Falgun sir. Chandrasekhar here from Bangalore. It was a great session with you. Thanks a lot. I have a question, like more of an insight that I was looking forward. Like, could you share some examples of successful ESG initiatives from companies in our industry, and how we can learn from their experiences? Examples of companies and their own ESG initiatives.
Yes, good point. I can cite few examples of my mind immediately. One is BCG on a global front. So BCG has curtailed. BCG found that its major carbon emission. BCG is a consulting company, and being consulting company, it has no factories, so there is no direct emission. But its carbon footprint was very high. And they found the majority of the carbon footprint is coming because its consultants keep on moving from here to there. So it cut its business travel by 45% last year, by 2022. And how it did that, they started with the guidelines that how much can be done offline, don't travel. Secondly, for the shorter distances, less than 5 hours travel, opt for economy. Because, for business travel, there is a higher carbon footprint. So they started with this kind of norms, and they cut 45% already, and they have very ambitious norms. In India, Infosys has a commitment to go carbon neutral by 2030. They have done a lot of things. If you go, I'm sure there could be some person from Infosys in this group, maybe. So they if they can throw some light. But as far as I know, as far as I read the report, they've made a lot of things within their premises. For example, renewable energy usage. Their HVAC system is based upon thermal storage. They have experimented with a thermal storage system for HVAC so that they can reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So these are some examples. Recently, ICICI Bank has come out with a lot of good initiatives, and its report, sustainability report, is taking rounds in the social circle. So you would probably come across. So these are some of the good examples. Some of the other important, what all companies can actually do in order to, so wherever there is a lot of transportation, you can go for uh, e-mobility. So that is one fundamental thing. You can reduce your total transport kilometers by relocating the warehouse such that there is minimum movement of the goods. So these are the things, because there is a lot of carbon footprint in the transportation. So business travel, transportation, uh, the companies have gone to the extent to that 100% paperless, because generating paper printing and then disposing that is a carbon it's a carbon emission. People have gone for a green. These days you find corporates, and I'm coming from that background I was in Symphony. So evaporative air cooling is coming into factories instead of refrigeration air conditioning, at least in factories and warehouses, to reduce the carbon footprint. So these are some of the things I can cite of my mind.
So when you talked about transportation, I could also think of a possible way in terms of an add-on, basically. The ESG initiatives through procurement and supply chain also, if there are any possible examples that you can cite on them.
Yes, absolutely. So on terms in terms of supply chain. So these days, BRSR core, which is mandated for top 150 companies, it says that you have to go up to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, up to tier 5. And tier 5 means most probably you are reaching up to the raw material. So when you are going in that sequence, most important thing that comes into picture is the circular economy. So how the resources are circulated back so that you are not using the fresh resources. So that is the most important thing that comes into picture. And then what your supplier does in terms of energy usage, in terms of transportation to your factory, also becomes your baby, because his scope 1 becomes your scope 3. And if you are the reporting company, then and he is a small SME player, he doesn't have to report to anything, but you have to report, and he becomes a part of your supply chain. So the renewables, use of renewables at the supply chain. Whenever there is a process, another important thing which comes these days important is JLD, which is zero liquid discharge. So what happens is most of these chemicals people sort of dilute through water and then dump into the ground. So the norms have come that you to sort of concentrate, and when it becomes powder or something which can be then dumped into the ground, and the liquid has to be then recirculated in terms of grey water for process and other things. So I can think of some of these things. I'm sure there'll be other people who can add more.
Excellent, sir. This has been very great insight from you. Thank you.
Thanks for a good question.
Yeah.
Sir, usage of solar panel.
Yes. So usage of solar panel. So solar panel is a part of renewables. I'm talking about renewables. So solar power is one of the renewables. Wind turbine is another renewable. Geothermal is another renewable. Uh, at least for now, we think that the solar energy is unlimited. So we think this is renewable source. So these are resource which is not consumable. That is how we use. Although in solar panel and in battery, there is one flip side to it. The flip side is that the energy that you produce using solar panel is a renewable energy. The energy that you store in battery and use in e-vehicle is a green energy. But the production of solar panel and production of battery
Yes. Again.
currently has a lot of pollution. So
Hmm.
so there is a lot of thought process and work going around going along to sort of, to minimize those things.
At least the
Hydrogen,
responsibility can be shifted to the manufacturer of the solar panel. But as an industry
absolutely.
consumers, we are using solar, so that's why we are anyhow contributing something. But
Correct.
the responsibility lie now on the manufacturer of the solar panel to see what they are doing and what they should not do.
I fully agreed with you. And the green hydrogen is the new thing which is setting in. And there are a lot of not only vehicles but also the machinery which are being sort of created to use the green hydrogen. Again, the technology is very new, as most of us already know, because the hydrogen has to be contained, otherwise it can uh, burst like a bomb. But it's a new thing which is coming in. It can be produced readily from sea water, and it is sea water we think currently that it is in abundance, and it's a non-depleting source currently.
So anyone would like to ask questions? Amitesh, you want to ask question? Okay, sir. I don't think so. There is any further
Okay.
question.
So I would like to just add one more last point. Is this pledge, and this is what I do wherever I talk about this. Uh, it's an individual pledge, and apart from, because corporate has its own role to play, governments has its own role to play, but we as individual have our role to play. So I include this slide and I discuss this slide. So it's like I have the power to make a positive difference in our climate crisis as an individual. I will use my power to do everything that I can through my actions and my voice wherever possible to bring about the change. I will lead and encourage others to work as a team to solve this challenge, which is a global challenge, and together we will be successful. Change begins here with me, with us. Right?
Yeah, very true, sir. Very true. Everyone should take this pledge, actually. Sir, it was a wonderful session, very insightful session, and very simple and very clear. I had few questions, but as you progressed on the slide, everything was clear. So you connected all the dots, sir, and starting from history and then following the dimensions of ESG, then scope, circular economy, reporting, then BR, SR, and then carbon pricing. So thank you so much for your time, and I believe everyone have gained something from it. Yeah, thank you for joining the session and accepting our invite.
Thanks to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, everyone.